Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV with a new RV orientation on this 2019 KZ Escape 180 RBT. We'll start right here at the front of the trailer with your propane bottle. Single 20-pound propane bottle. This is full right now. And anytime you open a modern style propane bottle, make sure you open that valve slowly and then all the way, in order to keep from tripping the excess flow valve in the modern style propane bottles. Behind the propane bottle is your battery. This is a 12-volt deep cycle RV battery with two wires going to it, red to positive, black to negative. Always recommend when you put the RV into storage that you disconnect the battery so that the current from the RV doesn't draw the battery dead over time. And it is a maintenance battery. So a couple of times a year, we recommend removing these two caps to expose the 6 cells beneath. Those cells are filled with fluid. If any of those cells look a little bit low, you can top that fluid up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. Also recommend removing the battery for winter storage when you put the RV away for the winter. Around the sides, you've got stabilizer jacks on all 4 corners. These are designed for stability, not for leveling. So once you've got the RV parked and relatively level, you can crank these jacks down to be snug with the ground, but you don't actually want to lift the RV with them. Right here you'll find your hot water tank. And this is a propane hot water tank. To light it, it's all direct spark ignition, so you don't have to worry about any pilot lights or anything. But a couple of things to know out here. Number one is your anode rod. So this works as the plug for the tank. So when you go to fill the tank with water in the summer, you'll have to put the plug back in. And likewise pull it out to drain the water out of the tank. But the rod itself also will corrode over time. This rod corrodes to help preserve the inside lining of the tank. So this can get to be quite pitted and corroded looking. That's perfectly normal. It's just doing its job. But once it gets down to that tiny little bar right in the center, it's time to replace it. We've got these available in our parts department. Also, before you pull that anode rod out of the tank, make sure to use the pressure relief valve to bleed the water pressure off of the tank so it doesn't spray when you remove the anode rod. And you've also got a little black reset button out here. This is in case you ever overheat the hot water tank, and that would mostly only happen if you ever started up the tank with no water in it. But if your tank is failing to light when you turn on the direct spark ignition switch, which I'll show you inside, you can come out here, press this button to reset that. Behind that are a couple more features of your fresh water system. Here is where you'll fill your fresh water holding tank, and you can do that with just a normal garden hose, or what we recommend is one of those white drinking water specific garden hoses so you don't get that plasticky garden hose taste in your water. And below that is your city water connection. So if you're staying at a site that has pressurized city water, you can hook up directly to the RV to pressurize your water from the source. When you're hooking up to city water, we recommend using a water pressure regulator just to ensure that you don't over pressurize the water lines and come out with a water leak. Right underneath here is where that fresh water tank will drain from. The drain valve is actually inside, so I'll show you that when we get inside. This is your furnace exhaust. Only thing to know about that is this can get very hot when the furnace is running, so make sure if you've got young kids around the RV, they know to stay clear of that. And your fridge vent here as well. So you can open up this panel on the back to access the back of the fridge for repairs or for cleaning, but mostly this is just a vent. The gas electric style of fridge needs some air movement to work properly. So you've got a vent here and another on the roof. Here at the running gear, your lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds, and we do recommend periodically retorquing lug nuts on an RV. And your tires are inflated to 65 psi. It's stamped right on the sidewall of the tire, 65 psi cold, and go ahead and run those tires right at 65 psi. You also need to repack your wheel bearings periodically, every 3 to 5 years or every 10,000 kilometers or so. But you also have on this model easy lube axles. So if you pop the center cap off of here, you'll find a grease zerk, which you can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. That doesn't eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, but it does prolong it. We used to recommend repacking wheel bearings every year, but as long as you're giving it a little bit of fresh grease every once in a while, like I say, every 3 to 5 years for most people. Behind that is where you'll dump your holding tanks. So the RV comes with a new sewer hose. It's stored here in the rear bumper. Sewer hose attaches onto here. Other end goes into the ground, obviously. And then you've got two valves, a larger black valve and a smaller gray valve. Always dump the black valve first. Then when that's finished dumping, you can close this valve and dump the gray valve. That'll use the gray water, the sink and shower water, to flush any sewage remaining in that sewer hose into the ground before you have to disconnect the sewer hose. Once you've disconnected the sewer hose, rinse it out and stow it back in the rear bumper. This is where your 30 amp power cord will attach to the trailer. This is a shop cord that we're using, but the actual power cord will attach right onto here. We also supply the park adapter to break it down from 30 amp electrical service to 15 amp electrical service, so you can plug into your home. Here at the back of the trailer, we've got the spare tire mounted to the rear bumper. I just like to point out that the trailer doesn't come with a jack or a wheel wrench, so it's a good idea to just check the wheel wrench that comes with your tow vehicle to make sure it fits the wheel nuts of the RV. Otherwise, you may want to pick up an extra wrench just in case you need it. And this is also where we'll find one of our 3 hybrid tent fold downs. I think in the interest of keeping the video under 30 minutes or so, we'll only fold one of these down. They all 3 work exactly the same. But to fold this down, actually let's finish around the outside and then we'll fold this down the first thing as we move inside the trailer. Your awning is a smart arm awning. So you've got controls from outside as well as inside. In order to use the outside controls, press and hold the lock button or the unlock button until the green light comes on. Then you can press to extend or retract the awning. The awning will extend a full 8 feet. You don't have to bring it all the way out. You can stop it at any point if you want, if there's a tree or another RV in the way. We'll go ahead and bring that all the way out. And then this awning is height adjustable as well. So once it's fully extended, you can pull down on this lower arm to drop one corner of the awning down. That way you can control which way the water runs off the awning. Both arms are adjustable, but typically you would only lower one side. Before you bring the awning in, you'll just want to put that back up to full height, both sides. That'll ensure that when the awning rolls up, it rolls up evenly on the roller tube. The other switch that you've got here on the smart arm panel is for your awning light. That's right above my head here. There's an LED light strip that runs the full length of the awning. It has 3 different light intensities and off. The smart arm awning, it also has an optional wind sensor that you can add on that would sense motion in the awning and retract the awning if the wind picks up. That's something that you can get through our parts and service department. And there is also an optional motion sensor for this light. So you can add a motion sensor if you like, so that when somebody walks into your campground or campsite, the light will automatically come on. Here in the front storage compartment, this is where you'll find that 30 amp power cord. This is that 15 amp park adapter that I spoke of. Also, you've got your jack crank handle for your crank down stabilizer jacks. For the entry door step, it's the LCI solid step, so it folds up right into the entry door frame. To open it, just open the latch and fold it down. If you're on an unlevel piece of ground, these legs can be adjusted for height, or if you're parked on the street in front of a curb. So just simple operation of that, and then we'll head inside. So before we do that, let's open up that rear hybrid bed end. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is release the two latches. The bed end folds down. It's supported by cables here, so no supports necessary to go in underneath. So just fold that down and make sure the canvas is straight. Then come on inside the trailer with me. The front and side mattresses have bungees to hold the mattress in place while you're traveling. The rear mattress just uses the wall to secure it. And somewhere is your, there it is. This is the prop for the canvas. So if you just attach the prop to the rafter and fold open like so, and then just attach the support right to the framework. Unfold the mattress and you're set up. The other two beds are exactly the same, just have to disconnect the bungee holding the mattress in place. Other things to cover inside, your fridge is a good place to start. So it's an automatic gas electric fridge. So when you're plugged into power, it'll always run on electricity, and if we turn this on, it's going to shows A for automatic, and it's going to run on electricity. If we weren't plugged in, it would sense that and it would automatically switch over to propane. You can override the automatic function to only run on electricity or only run on propane. It's not often that you would want to do that, but you may find that the fridge cools down a little faster running on propane than it does running on electricity. For now, I'm just going to set that back to automatic, and we recommend that just leave it in automatic most of the time. This one also has a temperature adjustment, 1 being the warmest, 5 being the coldest. I usually set it at 3, but you might find that you need to adjust that depending on the ambient temperature. Your stovetop right behind me is a 2-burner propane stovetop. Turn the burners over to high, and then you'll just light these burners with a barbecue lighter. One thing that I always recommend, anytime you have your propane bottle disconnected, if you take your propane bottle and refill it or exchange it, when you install the new bottle, the first thing that you should do is come here and light both of these burners. Once you've got both of these burners lit, you know you've bled any air that might have been in those propane lines off the system, and your automatic appliances are going to have no problem starting up. So that's your fridge, furnace, and hot water tank. So always light these burners every time you change your propane bottle. Stereo system is pretty simple to operate. It's AM, FM, Bluetooth, HDMI, USB, and auxiliary in. And then you also have a speaker selection dial up here to run your inside speakers, outside speakers, or both. And in the bathroom, there's a couple of notable things to show you in here. One is this power outlet. This is a notable power outlet because it's your GFI circuit breaker, your ground fault circuit interrupter. Just like the outlets in the bathroom of your home with a test and reset button, but the difference in an RV is this is wired in series with many of your other power outlets. So if you trip your GFI, you'll lose power at all of your outlets. Anytime you're plugged into power and can't figure out why your outlets aren't working, come in here, press the reset button. That'll reset that entire circuit. You've also got here your monitor panel, so you can see that our battery right now is completely charged. Fresh tank is completely empty, black tank completely empty, and gray tank is completely empty. And then you've got your switches here for your water pump and water heater. So to activate your water pump, if you're using water from your fresh water tank, turn that switch on. You can turn it on and then just leave it on the entire time you're camping. It'll cycle on and off as it needs to. And for the hot water heater, to light the propane burner of that hot water heater, just turn this switch on. The fault light comes on, showing that the tank is not lit. And in just a second, that light would go out when the burner lights. I'm not actually going to let that light right now because, as we know, this trailer's winterized and has no water in the tank. If for some reason that fault light didn't go out, or if it only went out briefly and came back on, that's when you might want to go outside and check that black reset button on the outside of that hot water tank. Oh, the toilet. Anytime you're using your RV sewer system, make sure to use a good potent RV toilet chemical. You can get it in powder, liquid, or tablet form. Doesn't matter which one you use, but when you add chemical to the tank, make sure to put some water down with that chemical. It takes some water to activate it. And you'll want to add new chemical immediately after every time you dump those holding tanks. So just pour some chemical into the tank, then push halfway down on the foot flush to fill the bowl with water. Once the bowl is full, then you can dump the whole works down into the tank. Back here you'll find your thermostat. This controls your furnace. So if we turn that up to a comfortable temperature, you just have to kind of estimate the temperature because it's not actually labeled with degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius here. But that furnace fan comes on immediately and is going to run for a few seconds before we hear the burner light up. Not sure if you could hear it in the video, but that ticking is the direct spark for the burner. So now if we left that run for a few seconds, we would have warm air blowing directly from the furnace itself. Once it comes up to temperature or you shut off the thermostat, again that burner goes out immediately, but the furnace fan itself is going to continue to run for another 30 seconds to a minute just to go through its cycle before it shuts down. Here next to me is your power converter. So this is the power center for the RV. This is where you'll find your 110 volt breakers and 12 volt fuses for all of your electrical circuits. You've got all 15 amp fuses here with one 40 amp master fuse. So a good idea to just have a couple of spare 15 and 40 amp fuses. It's not unheard of in an RV to blow a fuse, so recommend having some spares there. This also acts as your battery charger, so it can make a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound when it's under high load charging the battery. Perfectly normal. That's just what you're hearing is the charging. And up front here, you've got somewhere, anyway, is a propane leak detector. And cameraman, if you see that, point it out to me. Here it is way at the back. So that little device down there under the table is your carbon monoxide and propane leak detector. So it'll do three things. It'll alert you to a potential propane leak, obviously. However, if there was a propane leak in the trailer, you would almost certainly smell the propane before that starts to alarm. It could also alert you to high levels of carbon monoxide. But the third and most common thing that it may do is alert you to low voltage on your RV battery. That's wired directly into the RV's 12-volt electrical system. So once your RV battery gets very low, it'll chirp just like a smoke detector does when its battery is nearing the end of its life. Speaking of smoke detectors, you have one of those as well. Right here on the roof, and the smoke detector does have its own battery, so you'll want to check that periodically. I will go ahead and remove the packing material from that, and you'll test it just by pressing and holding the test button until you hear the beep. Then you know that that battery is good. We showed you how to run the awning from outside. You can also run the awning in and out from inside the trailer, and the little backlit blue switch is for the LED awning light. Remember, it had 3 intensities controllable from outside. From inside, it's simply on or off. And I think for the most part that covers it. I was going to show you where to drain that fresh water tank, and we'll find that under the dinette seat. This is where you'll locate your fresh water tank as well as your water pump. If you're one who plans to do your own winterizing, you can see that there's already an antifreeze siphon line on this water pump. So coming off the suction side of the pump, there's this antifreeze siphon line. You can put this directly into a jug of antifreeze, turn that valve down there on the line to open the siphon line, and close the other valve to close off the fresh water tank. Then you can activate your water pump and pump antifreeze directly from the antifreeze bottle. The other valve to the right of the water pump down there, that plunger valve, is to drain your fresh water tank. So just pull up on that valve to drain the tank. The other set of valves that you'll want to know about for the winterizing, if you do the winterizing yourself, is the bypass valves on the back of the hot water tank. They are located right underneath this dinette seat. Make sure to check out our how to winterize your RV video for more detailed instructions on the winterizing process. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2019 KZ RV Escape 180 RBT. You can always check our website, Trailblazer RV, or if you have any questions, get in touch with us here at Trailblazer. Thanks for watching.